Hello, my name is Bob, and I run a blog called promormon.blogspot.com, and was watching Shawn McCraney's Heart of the Matter TV show tonight. His show tonight was about polygamy and how it was practiced by the LDS Church and continues to be practiced by the LDS Church.
Gordon B. Hinckley made an official statement about polygamy. He said, quote, "I wish to state categorically that this church has nothing whatsoever to do with those practicing polygamy." Okay? Pretty emphatic. Categorically state, nothing whatsoever. Okay? On October 26, 2007, just a few days ago, the Deseret Morning News ran an article that was titled "Tributes Abound for Sister Hunter." It was a coverage of the passing and funeral of LDS prophet, seer, and revelator Howard W. Hunter, who's deceased. It was a funeral for his second wife, Ines. Now, it seems Ines lived a very nice life, and she was well-liked, and she was sealed to Howard W. Hunter after his first wife, Claire Jeffs, died of Alzheimer's disease. Many LDS leaders came to the funeral, and even Gordon B. Hinckley himself came and spoke. The Deseret News reported that Hinckley said, quote, that he affirmed the eternal nature of the marriage between Sister Hunter, Ines, and the former church president. So on the one hand, Hinckley says he categorically states that the LDS Church has nothing whatsoever to do with those practicing polygamy. And on the other hand, he affirms as recently as 3 or 4 days ago the eternal nature of the marriage between Howard W. Hunter and his second eternal wife. Understand, I don't care if they practice polygamy or not. That's what, if they want to do that in America, they can do that. People do just as bad things. But I do care when they make public pronouncements which claim they have nothing to do with it, but then they privately assure their members that they do. That's exactly what the situation is here.
And the idea that the LDS Church suggested that it would always be practiced, and that they actually changed that. And he made several misstatements of fact. For example, Brigham Young taught that polygamy was necessary in the reception sense. In other words, and the quote from Brigham Young is that you have to be a polygamist at least in your heart. It wasn't necessary that you be a polygamist in order to be saved. It simply was necessary that you believe that polygamy is a God-inspired doctrine. The thing that Shawn misses continuously through this show, he makes quotes. He takes quotes from the middle 1800s from various LDS leaders, and prior to the banning of polygamy in 1890, and he makes it sound as if that they're absolutely certain that polygamy would always exist as a practice of the LDS Church. Well, the fact is,
but if the federal government assumed the primary protagonist of the polygamy drama was out of the way, they received a rude surprise in the next Mormon leader, John Taylor.
If anything, he was more adamant than Brigham Young was. He essentially nailed the flag to the mast on plural marriage, saying we're not going to give up at all on the thing.
Like two burdened trains driven on by their own momentum, Taylor's commitment to plural marriage and Congress's commitment to break the Mormon Church raced headlong toward each other. The collision came in the 1880s.
For John Taylor, it was living outside the law because he felt the law was unjust and that God's law was a higher law.
While John Taylor was on the underground seeking to avoid federal informants, a pivotal moment in the history of plural marriage took place. It was the fall of 1886, and Taylor was holed up in this home in the town of Centerville, north of Salt Lake City. He was secretly visited by 3 high-ranking authorities of the Mormon Church. They carried a plan to end the practice of polygamy. According to witnesses, after listening to the plan to abandon polygamy, Taylor went into a bedroom for the night. The next morning, he announced he had been visited by God and Mormon Church founder Joseph Smith. In the cramped front room, he announces polygamy must be carried on, regardless of the cost, and reportedly ordains a group of men with the power to perform plural marriage. Taylor dies the next year, still on the run and still dedicated to polygamy.
The fact is that even during that time, members of the church all believed that, according to the Articles of Faith, that there were still many amazing, wonderful, marvelous things which would yet be revealed. And that is the keystone, the fundamental doctrine of the LDS Church, is ongoing revelation. So yes, we do take a pass in the sense that it's okay for us to believe that God can change His mind. He does in the Bible. Why can't He do it in the latter days? He does tests for His people to get them prepared and set up and moving forward. And that certainly was the case with polygamy, and the isolation, the privation that it caused, the test to the faith and will of the Latter-day Saints. All of those things reared generations of faithful, indoctrinated, which is important and not in a bad sense, Latter-day Saints who were committed to the gospel of Jesus Christ that was restored through the prophet Joseph Smith. So all of that was interesting. He doesn't point out, for example, the political football that polygamy was in the U.S. and that people like Rutherford B. Hayes as president used Utah as a football to kick around. He also gets a number of the details wrong around modern practice of polygamy. He makes the statement, he made the statement tonight, fundamentalists are closer to the pure doctrine of Mormonism revealed by Joseph Smith than the current LDS Church. Well, no offense, Shawn, but I bet you've never done any research on modern-day polygamy. And candidly, you don't have a clue what you're talking about. Candidly, you don't have a clue what you're talking about. Candidly, you don't have a clue what you're talking about. Candidly, you don't have a clue what you're talking about. Candidly, you don't have a clue what you're talking about.